Now, Turkey's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Hakan Fidan, is making some opening remarks before a meeting of Ukrainian and Russian delegations in the Turkish city of Istanbul for a second round of peace talks. Let's listen in.
Discussed the issue in depth with both parties. Since the first meeting on the 16th of May, I would like to first of all thank you for the result-oriented focus that you all have. In relation to the revival of the decisions that have been taken during the first meeting, the parties took very important steps. The exchange of 1,000 individuals has been completed very quickly, and both parties have actually identified their stance vis-à-vis the ceasefire and the following steps. As we agreed, they also extended the will to discuss these next steps in today's meeting. Distinguished participants, we are actually continuing to discuss the ceasefire and peace perspectives of both parties. We will also be talking about taking one more step pertaining to the exchange of prisoners of war. And we are also hoping to discuss the preparations for the leaders' meeting. Conducting fruitful meetings and frequent meetings is beneficial for both sides, and by putting forward the positions, we will be limiting the disagreements and we will pave the path for peace. I hope that the negotiations will be fruitful and we will have a concrete progress and reach to the final outcome, which is our main expectation. The belief and faith of the United States of America vis-à-vis these negotiations, we believe, are very important, and the determinism of President Trump about peace has opened a new window of opportunity. What is important is to have sustainable peace. And of course, through this, we will be providing security to energy, food, and many other issues at the global level. During this period, as Turkiye, we are ready to take every kind of facilitative step. We're sharing the same geography. We have historical, cultural, economic, and political ties with both countries. And the trust that both countries feel towards Turkiye is beyond any imaginable characteristics. The negotiations that we are going to handle here is going to be important in determining our common faith at the regional as well as the global level. The whole world is actually watching your contacts here. We need to benefit from this opportunity at the utmost level, and we hope that we will have concrete results that will take us to peace one more step closer. I would like to thank the distinguished heads of delegation and the members of delegation, and I hope that the negotiations will bring fruitful outcomes to the Ukrainian and to the Russian people. Thank you.
Well, you've been listening there to opening remarks from Turkiye's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Hakan Fidan, before a meeting of Ukrainian and Russian delegations. They're in the Turkish city of Istanbul for a second round of peace talks. These are the direct discussions between the two countries on ending the war that's been going on now for more than 3 years. Now, Turkiye has expressed optimism that it will be possible to reduce differences in these talks. And they're saying that the US will also be making an important contribution here. Let's bring in our correspondent, Dmitry Medvedenko. He joins us from Istanbul. He's also been listening in. Dmitry, you were talking us through some of the big asks earlier. Can you talk us, perhaps give us a sense of where the conversation is beginning today, the two positions of both sides?
So we've had the first round of talks on the 16th of May. This is when the sides met for the first time in more than 3 years, still in the city of Istanbul. Now, in that first round, they agreed at the end there was a tangible result of an exchange of 1,000 prisoners of war on both sides. This was the biggest exchange yet. I mean, there had been exchanges of prisoners of war which didn't require such negotiations, but the two sides demonstrated that they can achieve some kind of tangible result in this first talk. And they agreed that in the second round of talks, which is happening right now, since we've heard Hakan Fidan make his opening remarks, it means the negotiations have started. They're almost 2 hours late. So what they're going to be doing is they're going to be sharing their vision for what it takes on both sides, what they want to achieve a cessation of hostilities. Ukraine has always been saying it wants a ceasefire. The Ukrainian president has said he wants at least a 30-day ceasefire in the air, on land, and on sea. Russia, so far, in the previous round of talks, avoided using the term ceasefire as much as it could, saying that Russia wants long-term peace and an eradication of the root causes of the conflict. And what's also interesting to note is that the Ukrainian side shared its memorandum that is presenting right now at these talks with Russia beforehand, but Russia didn't. So we will have to wait and see if the Ukrainian delegation actually managed to see this memorandum from the Russian side ahead of the conversations, or if it's doing so right now.
Dmitry, have we seen any kind of movement when it comes to red lines on both sides? Obviously, there are many areas, tracts of land, which are very controversial for both sides.
Well, we have to remember that Russia occupies around 20% of Ukrainian territory right now. Now, there were sources from the Ukrainian delegation as a result of the first round of talks saying that the Russian list of demands that they presented at that time verbally includes withdrawal of Ukrainian forces from the 4 regions that Russia annexed. That's Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson. The important element to remember here is that Russia doesn't control any of these regions 100%. And in some regions like Zaporizhia, Ukraine controls quite a sizable chunk, around 40% of that region. So Russia's demand for Ukraine to withdraw, if it is true, is something that Ukraine described as non-starter.
Dmitry, in terms of where we're at, in terms of the fighting, it felt like for a long period of time there was a bit of a stalemate, but there has been seemingly an escalation in attacks from both sides in recent months. Where are we at when it comes to the actual fighting and resourcing of both sides?
So Russia, over the past year, has been slowly progressing into Ukrainian territory, notably in the region of Donetsk, but also in Luhansk towards the north, towards Kharkiv. And when it comes to the Kherson and Zaporizhia regions, basically it's more of a stalemate because there's a natural barrier, which is the Dnipro River, between the two sides, separating troops there. Now, what's important to remember is that Ukraine launched a surprise incursion into Russian territory in August last year, something that nobody saw coming. And it took Russia something more than half a year to completely move Ukrainian troops out of Russian territory, where Ukraine controlled around 1,000 to 1,500 square kilometers. And now, as a result of that, there's around 50,000 Russian troops stationed or amassing at the border between the Kursk region and the Sumy region, where this incursion came from. Kursk region's in Russia, Sumy is in Ukraine. So what Ukraine is preparing for right now is what they called summer offensive of Russian troops. And this is, of course, affecting the mood here at these negotiations, because if these diplomatic talks fail, then there's more fighting to come in the months ahead, possibly increasing in intensity.
Well, Dmitry, I imagine the other thing affecting the mood is that huge, large-scale Ukrainian attack that we saw with drones deep inside Russia just over the last 24 hours or so. What kind of tone has that changed there? Is that shifting any of the dynamics in these discussions?
It's a very interesting timing when the Ukraine chose to carry out this attack, and the Ukrainian president has been praising everywhere he could the special forces that carried out this attack. Just a reminder, some airfields as deep as Siberia were bombed by Ukrainian drones. And basically what Ukraine is trying to say is that it still has the power to carry out these surprise attacks that cause real damage to Russian strategic bombers. And Russia, on the other hand, has been only acknowledging some damage done to its aircraft, and, well, not to the scale that Ukraine has been claiming that it was done. And the timing is interesting here, because the Ukrainian president said this attack was 1.5 years in preparation. So they chose to launch it specifically before these talks. And the Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy has said that these kind of attacks are what is going to bring Russia towards diplomacy.
And obviously a large number of other countries with huge stakes in these discussions too. Dmitry Medvedenko there for us watching those talks in Istanbul. We'll be coming back to Dmitry throughout the day for updates. For now, thank you very, very much, Dmitry. Now, just to remind you where we are at. We have just seen Hakan Fidan, that's the Turkish foreign minister. He's been making opening remarks before a meeting of Ukrainian and Russian delegations. As we've been saying, these are the second round of direct discussions between the two countries, the Ukrainians and the Russians, on ending the war that's now been going for more than 3 years. You heard Dmitry there speak about everyone readying for a summer offensive. There is a hope that that will be averted.